Carys Moseley works as a public policy researcher for Christian Concern in the UK. She regularly writes in defence of people's right to pastoral care for unwanted same-sex attraction and gender confusion, and has also addressed pro-life issues, the effect of same-sex marriage and parenting, and religious freedom and free speech. She is on the research board of the International Federation for Therapeutic and Counselling Choice.
Dr. Carys Moseley is joining us via Skype. Carys, it's really good to have you on live at Icon Towers, and we'd just like you to share some thoughts with us. The Give Me a Chance concert is raising awareness about Christians who have left the homosexual lifestyle. Why is this important today?
It's important because this is a trend that's increasingly being attacked, and we've seen this for the past few months in Malta. And of course, the lead singer in that concert, Matthew Grech, was attacked by ministers in the government of Malta several times, and has been under pressure since, as far as I can tell. And this is the problem: is that Malta as a country is setting a precedent. It's seen as having the gold standard for LGBT rights worldwide. But the problem is when those rights clash with other rights like religious freedom, that then becomes a legal matter, a political matter, and there are people caught in the middle.
And do we have any idea why LGBT activists are suddenly pushing for laws to ban conversion therapy around the world? Why is this push becoming such a big issue now?
Well, first of all, the concept of conversion therapy is a dishonest concept, because what it is activists have lumped together all the different ways of dealing with same-sex attraction, including, valid ways of talking with people, normal talking, pastoral care, if you like, or prayer or whatever, having insight and getting to know the whole person, with more physical treatments that have existed in the past in psychiatry, not in the churches, but in mental health, and being controversial. Some of them have been damaging. And they've lumped them all together as if it's a conspiracy. And they've managed to push this idea that we need to get rid of everything, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. I do believe that 2019 is the year when they are really intending to push all these laws worldwide. You can see that. You saw it from January. I had that sense back in November, actually. I think there's been 50 years of this campaigning in the UK. I know that the Gay Liberation Front and people like Peter Tatchell have been around for 50 years pushing for this. And they've been attacking what they see as the Judeo-Christian foundations of mental health care and psychiatry and the care of the mind. They've had some effect, obviously, and there's been, that's true in other parts of mental health care. I think part of it, they say that it's to stop people being in pain because they don't want to live a gay lifestyle. That may be true, but I think there's other motives that are not clear. So covering up the tracks of the problems that those lobbies have created, same-sex parenting and the effect of that. Some of my friends who grew up in that lifestyle, those families, they have a lot of problems. Then there's what some activists would call desensitization, which is a step further, which is really normalizing all of this. And if you talk about change in therapy, you're putting the spotlight on the fact that many people are distressed and unhappy and have quite messy lives, quite messy inner lives. And that takes away from all the 20 or so years of gay activism that's been trying to normalize the homosexual lifestyle for both sexes, make it shiny and attractive in the mass media.
Thinking about the UK and other Western countries, what sort of impact do you think this ban would have on young people and families in particular?
Well, it already is, I think. When you look in England, especially on the debates on relationship and sex education and how vitriolic that's become, and people, especially women, who seem to care for the effect that sexualization in primary school even is having. There's been people, not only Christians, but also Muslims and others, have been attacked for saying this is coming into school, you're informing them, you're influencing them before puberty. There was a lady who was suspended from a job as a psychologist with young people because she's a mother as well. She'd raised a concern, and the people who suspended her were the British Psychological Society. And they're one of the mental health bodies who had signed up to this so-called Memorandum of Understanding against Conversion Therapy in the UK, So all the main mental health bodies in the UK have said you can't help people diminish same-sex attraction, even if they want to be rid of it themselves. And so now even a parent who's complaining, or somebody who's complaining or campaigning in their spare time, is being suspended from their job.
Can you explain that just in a sentence or two? Why exactly has she been suspended?
She made comments about the curriculum and the no outsiders. I can't remember if there's no outsiders in England, or the wider introduction of the RSC curriculum, introduction of LGBT identities and normalizing it in schools in England.
Yeah.
And that was on social media, and just generally she's spoken up, and there was a video on YouTube, her giving a talk to an association. But it was in her own time.
Here in the UK and elsewhere, gay activists have gone undercover to Christian events. I mean, it's just incredible. And where people are offered pastoral care to deal with unwanted same-sex attraction. What do you make of this whole crazy idea of going undercover to expose people who are helping other people? I mean...
I know. I've seen it happen for myself in one of these events, more than one, actually. I think it's not just Britain, actually, it's other countries as well. It's happened in Spain recently. It's happened, I think, in New Zealand. Who knows what's going on inside their minds? I mean, journalists like to feel heroic, and these people are usually trained journalists. But some of them say that they feel hurt by what was said. And I feel like saying, well, didn't you realize that? Because you don't agree with the beliefs, and you don't have the same, your conscience is not the same, basically, say. So didn't you expect that? And some people on their side have actually said that. I think that's the psychological question I have, which only they can answer. From a Christian point of view, it's Paul in his letter to the Galatians talks about people who infiltrate the Christian church in Galatia, and they spy on the liberty or the freedom of Christians. Their inner freedom to live according to God's word. And I think that we do have an example of that. And that's what I would want to say to Christians around the world today is, it's not just this pastoral issue. Your church may not deal with it. It could be other things. It could be alcohol, drugs, adultery, anything. And so you need to watch, and you don't sit there smugly and think, well, I know, I don't care about these issues.
So what you're saying is pastoral care of any kind of unwanted same-sex attraction should not be driven underground. Is that what you're suggesting? Or is the opposite?
It has been driven underground. People have driven themselves underground in some places, and it's been mentioned. I've seen it mentioned in the press in Australia, for example. Underground church, I'm not sure where the concept comes from, so I have to be careful, but I can't see it in the Bible. That doesn't mean that it has no validity in practice. But if you start hiding, how do you stop? Where do you draw the line? And the thing is, this is pastoral care we're talking about, and you need training. Pastors need training. They may have counselling skills, they'll have theological training and experience. People who give pastoral care for any subject, especially this, they need to be accountable to others. A lot of people who come out of a background of same-sex behaviour and attraction have been sexually abused, raped, or bullied growing up. And that's very serious. Now, whoever would dream of saying that pastoral care for people who've been sexually assaulted, bullied, or raped should just be driven underground, because then we'll have no accountability systems. In Britain, we have, we care about public institutions.
Yeah.
We have for example, the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. I know it's considered inadequate. I'm not making a judgment for or against, but there is a sense, the public has a sense that there should be public structures all the way up to the law courts and to the universities and so on, where this is taken seriously and evidence is allowed in public. And in fact, there is evidence given into that inquiry that people who've been abused are more likely to, men especially, are more likely to develop same-sex attraction and behaviour in adult life. It's clear that there's going to link with that being unwanted. So if people are going to go underground, I think that's highly irresponsible. Are they going underground because they're being slagged off on social media? What are they trying to protect?
Yeah, but if you're being persecuted, the natural thing to do is to hide, or is to pull back, so that it's not everyone that can just face the consequences of such opposition and persecution. And
I agree. I think we have to examine ourselves. We have to support each other more, those who support this work, and friends of people doing that work. I'm just saying that there is a difference between the confidentiality of the room and the place people are meeting, which is sacrosanct. And the fact that when you are training in counselling, therapy, or ministry, you're going to be training maybe, but they're going to be modules and literature and teaching about these issues. That is going to be in the classroom, in a college or whatever. And that's, that's in the public domain. And how can you learn? You can't just learn by word of mouth. And you also, counsellors have to have somebody they're accountable to speak to, because they're often traumatized by listening to some people's stories. And they have to offload onto somebody. So you have to have professional structures.
Wow.
So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about pretending that everybody can be out there in the media. It's about a structure and a community of support and having an aim and keeping that care and responsibility for future generations.
Well, Dr. Carys Moseley, it's really been good to have you on the show. Do you have just any last words for our viewers?
I would say, please pray for this sort of work, whether it's occurring in an explicitly Christian setting or just regular counselling. It is under threat, but please get to know people who are involved. I think some of these people are often at the edge of the church. We're trying to show that they are just regular people in the church. They worship just like you. And, we must be humble about it. We must have hope as well. And remember that if you come under pressure, you don't run away. Please support each other in the name of Christ. Yes. Amen.
Thank you very much. It's really good to have you. Hopefully we'll have you another time. So that was Dr. Carys Moseley, and it was good to have her on the show. What are your thoughts about some of the things that she raised? You can drop a line. You can join us live on Facebook and drop a comment. Let's hear from you.